So that's definitely one of those things that once I started getting exposed to a lot of that information, I was like, I want to know more. Whether, that means I start owning tens, 20 units or whatever, but it's at least having that knowledge that if I want to do it and I'm able to do it, and go from there.
What up, team? I've got an interview today for you with Miss Hillary Aguirre. Now, she's a business owner. She is a real estate investor. She's also active duty Marine. She's in right now doing this work. Now, today we'll talk a little bit about her passive income journey, buying a single family house in 2019, and then where they are now, as well as she's got some quality advice on how to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves while you're in the military. Let's do this.
Sometimes we think, looking at it on the real estate side, like I have to have $500,000 in my account unless that's the only way I can buy my house. And that's a lot of like society and just the lack of education we get on certain things that gives you that mindset. But then once you start doing more research into it, you start learning like there's different methods, whether if it's special type of loans, especially for like military, or, creative financing once you get into other options.
Welcome back to the show. Today, we've got Hillary Aguirre. She's going to help us to learn about taking advantage of opportunities, particularly when it comes to small business, as well as getting started in your real estate journey. I'm super excited to have Hillary here. She is a CEO and creator of April and May Gift Shop, which you can find online at aprilandmaygifts.com. Super dope shop. A lot of custom stuff. You might want to go check it out, but we'll talk more about that now. Hillary, welcome to the show. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We've had some technical issues this morning, but it's all good. We'll make it work and we're going to make this thing happen. So let's talk about, get straight into it. You coming from active duty Marine, doing all the stuff you're doing during regular day, and now you've got this business. How did you get started going from that into business?
So it was, I'm always have a very curious mindset. So I'm always trying to think of like, hey, what else can I do? I was looking for a creative hobby. So something besides like, hey, trying to work out or trying to, I got into running. So I just wanted to do something creative because I never felt like I had a specific creative gene that went all to my siblings. So I was looking for a creative hobby, came across embroidery, and I was like, that's actually pretty cool. I never really thought of that. Took the plunge, bought a machine, had no idea how to use it, and then it became something that I really enjoyed creating. So from there, I again put myself in a position. I posted it at the time in the area I was living. I was like, hey, does anybody want the first thing I sold was like towels with embroidered names and stuff, targeting it for like kids and all that stuff since I had my son at the time. Nice. And I got like 20 orders the first night. I was like, I don't even know really how to work this machine.
wait. Okay. But, so pause. Wait a second, Hillary. So you created the site. You just said, all right, I'm gonna jump in. You bought the sewing machine, this machine that is, has its own price to it, right? You figured out how to use the machine. Then you asked for orders online and you immediately got 20 orders. There was no panic in you at this particular moment in time?
As soon as I started getting a bunch of orders in, there definitely was. I was like, oh, I thought, it was going to be one of those things you post and nobody looks at your post and just keeps scrolling. Right. But that was not the case. And I was very thankful. I mean, now looking back, it was funny because I stayed up all night, almost in tears. My husband was just looking at me like, and I was like, I can't let these people down. I put it out there. I had these orders and
love it.
Hey, it was good work. Not where I am now, obviously, but I definitely appreciate people taking, that initial trust in what was just an idea and now has bloomed into a full business. So
I like it. So the transition to a full business, and you talked about how different it is now than it is when it started. What is the, outside of clearly the obvious, you just kind of jumping in, but what have you learned between when you jumped in and now that you feel like you should have known before you jumped in the first place?
Uh, I would say, on a business standpoint, it's
Mm,
not what a lot of business owners make it seem, right? Whenever you think of like social media, they're like, oh, you would just, how I thought you just start a business and
right.
that's it. So along the way, learned about business taxes, making sure to file it quarterly. In your personal life, you're like, okay, only annual, but then in the business side, where I have my business and how my business is set up, we're doing quarterly taxes, just making sure to have those systems in place, like a website. Don't even get me started. I'm trying to set up my website on my own. Uh,
I get it.
that was pretty crazy at first, and so just those very small things, and the same thing of like, it's not just, oh, you just post on social media and that's it.
Right.
Like you have
Right.
to have actual targeted marketing, have to have content, and it's really not, it's not hard. I don't want to like shy anybody away from starting a business, but it's definitely one of those learning journeys that, at least for me, I'm like the type of person, like I'm just gonna go for it, and then I'll figure out the details along the way. And thankfully, it worked out, but it's definitely not as straightforward as some people make it to be.
Yeah, I understand totally on that. That seems to be probably one of the biggest things when anybody who's doing anything when it comes to business is we just don't know how deep the tax rabbit hole goes, and then how
Right.
involved that is, because it seems like that non-existent when you see it online and all this other stuff. But man, oh man, taxes, and you got to pay for the business to stay up, to be in good standing with whatever state or city it's in. It's a whole litany of things. So I get it. You talk
Exactly, and the
about,
state doesn't.
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The state, whenever, for example, as a new business owner, it could be very overwhelming because
Hmm.
you do get like, the tax call, but it's like a lady who just rambles a million new terms at you, and they're like, okay, got it, don't mess it up because you're going to get fined if you don't file your taxes online
Right.
uh, at the right time. And you're like trying to write everything down. You're like, I don't even know what she said. I don't even know what these terms mean. So
That's
it's
a
good.
fact. That's a fact. So let's talk about your, because in that clearly you had, like we said, you jumped into April and May feet first, and you talk about taking advantage of opportunity. What does taking advantage of opportunity mean to you now that you've done all the things you've done?
I think taking advantage of opportunities is, you see something that uh, you you think is going to work out. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business side of it. It could just be something that you enjoy and that presents itself, maybe that you weren't expecting necessarily to do, and
Mm-hmm.
then just going for it. Whether that means going feet first and tumbling a little bit on along the way, or whether that means taking that step back and planning a little bit more for it. You just got to go for it. 'Cause we definitely sometimes don't trust ourselves enough or have that
Yeah.
confidence enough to where we're just like, okay, I'm going to do this. Sometimes we think, looking at it on the real estate side, like I have to have $500,000 in my account unless that's the only way I can buy my house. And that's a lot of like society and just the lack of education we get on certain things that gives you that mindset. But then once you start doing more research into it, you start learning like there's different methods, whether if it's special type of loans, especially for like military, or creative financing once you get into other options. So you learn those things, that there's other ways to do it. There's more information out there, and then just whenever you get an opportunity, of mine was like, hey, it's my first day, I don't even know how to use this machine, but people like this. There's 20 orders. I'll go figure it out. So that means if I don't sleep for 2 days, that was an opportunity, and still got a lot of room for growth and improvement. But
Of course.
it's definitely something for the future. That's going to be big.
That's dope though. But growth and improvement is always kind of the movement you want to be on, regardless. But the fact that you said that you look at it and you take the opportunities that you see, and you talked about mindset. So let's go into the mindset thing, because I think that's huge for anybody who's getting into anything. How do you, Hillary, as a new entrepreneur, as someone who's getting into real estate, how do you put yourself into the right mindset to do all this investing you're looking at doing?
It's I think I've been lucky enough in my career to be surrounded by a lot of great people and mentors. So I think having the right people around you to help shape that mindset, that the I can do it mindset,
Right.
is definitely crucial. So just being around good people to, what people say is like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably not in the right room. So just establishing that of like always continuing trying to learn, and then even while being curious and trying to do everything, just always have a plan of just making sure at the end of the day, like, take care of yourself and evaluating like why you're doing this, what your goals are. Is it just like a creative hobby that you want to do? And if so, that's fine. Like, explore it. Or is it something that, you want to go into, that breaking the generational curse, or being able to have financial freedom in the future? So it's all about establishing your goals, surrounding yourself with people who can teach you, and same thing, be able to pass that information along, and then just look at the future.
Right. For former military, how would you advise them to get around those people? Because I think for us, sometimes it becomes odd because you're so used to the run and gun of the U.S. Army, the U.S. Marine Corps. Not saying that the Air Force and Navy don't run and gun, but everybody's got their own form, right? What is your advice to them to get around those people and to find that mentorship?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, sometimes I wonder, I'm like, how do people back in the day used to do this stuff? When you think of, because we just have like, apps and everything. It's all at your fingertips. I'm sure they had like the classifieds and all that stuff. But just Google. I mean, now I haven't gotten into the chat GPT world yet, but you just Google like, meetups around me, or whatever your area is and whatever subject. I know there's like a meetup type apps that you can just, especially with like Facebook, there's tons of groups for whatever you're interested in, and then just asking those questions, and putting yourself out there, because it just, especially once you're getting into something, you don't want to be the person to like ask the dumb question, like, how do I get started in this? But sometimes you just got to ask, or you got to do your research in order to like phrase it, and go from there. So I definitely suggest like mastermind groups. I think that's how we got our connection, was in the Military to Millionaire mastermind group, or listening to podcasts. And if you hear somebody's email, like, shoot them a message, or social media, try and link up with them. So definitely just doing your research. And if you see something, whether if it's a meetup group in person, an online group, like, go for it, attend it, be there. Even if you don't know what's going on, be a fly on the wall, and then just absorb all that information. Or, just ask those questions if you're about it.
I love it. And now, and shout out to Military to Millionaire. There's a lot of military in there. Well, of course, it's called Military to Millionaire, dummy. But there's a lot of military inside the Military to Millionaire group, and we're all doing amazing things. There's a lot of dope people in there. So I'm gonna leave the connection to Military Millionaire in the show notes on this episode. So you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Hillary when we see us on there. And going into that, Hillary, let's talk about you hopping in Military to Millionaire, and now you're going on to this real estate journey. Now, this is a different transition from what you were doing with the small business, and now you're doing real estate. What prompted this transition, and then what's your plans and what's your goals to get there as you move forward?
Absolutely. So we purchased our first home in Florida. I'm originally from Florida, so I was lucky enough to go back to Florida for recruiting duty. So at that point, all the stars aligned, and we're like, hey, let's go ahead and buy our first home. And this was around 2019. So right before everything COVID. So we were able to get the good rates that everybody talks about now, and get a great deal. We got a new construction home, and just because we didn't know, we're like, I don't want any issues. I don't want to have to fix anything. We just need new construction. And till this day, it's been definitely a blessing. So we lived in it for 3 years. That community specifically has, I didn't even know like the plans to expand that community, but it's a huge community, huge golf cart community with one of the, I don't know if it's the nation or the state's first lagoon communities. So it's definitely grown a lot, and it was just one of those lucky areas we picked, and I definitely credit that to my husband because he has a better intuition on that. So we lived in it for 3 years. We were just like, hey, it's time to PCS again. No idea what to do with this house. But I've heard some things in these groups about renting it. So let's try and rent it. And as of this year, we'll have around October, a tenant for about a full year, and it's been positively cash flowing. And just that mindset of like, thankfully, I knock on wood, I always feel like the stars always align because I have a great tenant right now, and it's one of those mindsets that like, hey, you can own your home and then still have someone else pay for it, but also cash flow from it to build those reserves or to invest in other products. And then I just started doing more research in the group. I'm like, in most Facebook groups, I'm like that creepy person just looking. I don't post so much unless I got like a good question. There's my research phases.
Okay.
And I started just exploring. I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. But that guy has like, 10, 15, 20 units. I'm like, I didn't even know you can own an apartment complex.
Right.
Then so it was just so much that I was exposed to that I had no idea. I think up until 2019, which at that point I was almost at my 10-year mark in the military. And I didn't even know I could buy a house, right? Because, which I'm not saying everybody needs to buy a house immediately as soon as they get in. Obviously, do your research, but nobody teaches you that. I had great mentors, but they were very like career focused mentors, and it wasn't anybody sitting me down, whether if it was growing up in my personal life or in my career, saying like, let's talk about finances and not just like save your money, but let's see what else you can do with the money that you're getting in. And just like a good E2, E3 in the Marine Corps, I was like, I have money now. Let's get these cars. Let's go to the movies. Let's go out, do all this other stuff. And then looking back, I'm like, but why? Why didn't somebody, I wasn't reckless, but just why didn't somebody tell me about, investing, real estate, all this other stuff? So that's definitely one of those things that once I started getting exposed to a lot of that information, I was like, I want to know more. Whether, that means I start owning tens, 20 units or whatever, but it's at least having that knowledge that if I want to do it and I'm able to do it, and go from there, and just not even scratching the surface of like, going into partnerships and all that stuff. Cause then I, ended up branching into the mastermind group and just seeing how that all works. I'm like, I didn't know you can own something with somebody else. I thought it just, like I said at the beginning, it just has to be you 100%. If you don't have, 100K at any given moment ready to put down, then you're not getting it. So it's definitely something that I'm in the month and a half or so that I've been part of the mastermind group. I've already attempted like 3 deals that probably I didn't, initially wouldn't never. I would have been like,
Right.
that's X amount of money, or that seems way too complicated. One deal that I was looking at was it was advertised as land, but it was like a
Mm.
half built house. From my group, they were like, no, that's a fully built house. They just need to do, put some doors and windows on it. But just learning those details, looking into permits, something that, I would have never known.
Right.
I could have either made that mistake and then just purchased it and been like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. Or I would have just never attempted to go for that deal or even ask the question to that realtor in email, which that one specifically didn't work out, but it's just the exposure to the information and the knowledge and then being able to go for it and try it out, see how it works.
Right. It's amazing. Just some of this, just when you mentioned the groups, and this is again a shout out to Military to Millionaire. It's just such a large community that has a very small community feel. And that's been huge. I know, like you said, for you, it's definitely been huge for me. And with that, we're going to do the punch in the face question. This is the question that we talked about. We call it the punch in the face. With question we talked about, but for you, we're going to go off of what we just talked about. What's been the best piece of advice that you've gotten up to this point from your group in Military to
Ooh, for my group.
Millionaire?
Let's see. Gotta say something good, because if not, then
No, no. I mean, so keep in mind,
earlier.
it's all perspective, right? Like what's good for you may not be
Right.
good for somebody else, but the advice that you got that was the best for you is probably going to be the best for somebody else who's another Hillary who's out there right now looking at buying a BMW as we speak.
Exactly. Exactly. I think the best advice that I received from our group specifically was really to just ask those questions and then make sure to get into the details of things before you actually commit. And I think that's just in general, just a life thing before you commit to anything. Just make sure that you know what you're looking into, but especially for like real estate, once you're putting some serious money down or signing bunch of papers, just make sure that you look at the details and don't be scared to negotiate. I think that's also another one, because I don't know, half the time you can negotiate a house. I think for my house, I tried to negotiate a fence, which again, as a new buyer, looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was real silly. So just negotiate and definitely just ask every single question, even if you think it's very minimal. You don't know the impacts that it could have on a specific structure or a specific deal. So ask those questions and negotiate.
That's actually excellent advice. There's many times, even as a new buyer in new construction, it is amazing to me. Now I'm looking back, the stuff that you can get out of a new construction deal, if you know how to ask the question, what question to ask. So yeah, I
Right.
definitely agree with that 100%. You got to negotiate, got to have a call, got to have a talk with people. All right, let's hop back into it. Right, let's talk about. You talked about the impact of the group. We've talked about taking action. Let's talk a little bit about your goals, you and your husband's goals to get from where you guys are now to where you want to be. What does that look like? What's the plan there?
Right. I think for us, it's I have a toddler. So once he came into the world, my perspectives on everything really changed.
Yep.
As far as like
Tendency to do
I
that.
said before, it was yeah, it was just like us two for, you know, 11 plus years. And so we were very stuck in a way of thinking, because like I said, two people, two grown people, and I have a toddler in the mix, and you're like, wow, everything that I thought I knew about life is very different now. And it's all in a great way, because I feel like I'm more ambitious, have more goals, and actually have something to work towards. So, something to refocus me. So, what that looks like for me right now is, definitely getting additional properties in order to start really learning more about real estate. And then for my business continuing to grow, I would love to eventually turn into a full concept, either gift shop or do like a sewing studio or something like that in the future, once I have a little bit more stability and not necessarily always moving around for the business per se. And then just have that ability to spend time with my son. At least for me, once you have a kid, you realize how fast time flies, and you're like, you were just born. You're already talking in full sentences. You're over here fighting me for my lemonade. So you realize how fast time flies, and just really how precious, life's moments are, and just needing to slow down a little bit. So I definitely like to create a life that where I can slow down and make sure I don't miss a lot of those special moments, whether if it's, with my son or with my family. So just be able to create that. And while money doesn't necessarily bring happiness, it's definitely something in the world that we live in that it's absolutely, you need to have those basic structures of like a roof over your head, or, to get those basic necessities for just basic survival. So just having something like that it's not something that you solely focus on, and, just working yourself to where you can't come home and spend time with your family because you're just so tired because you put so much effort into, your day, that you can't enjoy those moments. So creating a life to where I can slow down, or at least be able to focus on those moments and be there for my family is what I want to look like. No specific number to that. It's just what's going to allow me to basically be there.
No, that's huge. That's the same thing I think most of us are after in some form or fashion. It's the true freedom. Particularly being in the military, almost all of us are I don't want to say a slave, but we are basically a victim of our own success, right? The better you are in the military, Marine Corps, Navy, whatever military unit you are, whatever military branch you're in, the better you are, the more you get called on. The more you get called on, exactly, the less time you have, right? So I get it. And then that time takes away from family. So having that ability to be like, hey, I need to go do whatever and do whatever I want to do. And you're out of the military. Now you have that money coming in from business, from your real estate. All that stuff is important and positive. And I know it's something I think about quite often, particularly as I got into it. Having a kid, I have two. So having two kids and time. I am 100% with you. That time starts flying by and you're like, wait a second, I just got up. It's 12 already? Oh my God, half the day is gone. So I think it's dope, Hillary, that you're putting that time away, figuring out what that time looks like for you, yourself, and the family, and y'all are putting that time away and setting it aside. And with that said, I know I don't want to suck up all your time. So we got like 3 or 4 minutes left. So I want to make sure you have the floor to give basically what we call our troop to task. Troop to task is it's going to be a piece of advice Haley's going to give you to go and move forward in whatever you're doing. It's a general piece of advice. It could be exactly what she wants to be as far as real estate. It could be as far as business. It could be just being a mom. Whatever it might be, she's going to give you a piece of advice right now that you can take and move forward in your life as we speak. Hillary, the floor is yours.
Awesome. So I'd go for 2 pieces. One, always be curious. And I say that whether if it's in your personal life or whether if it's in your business journey, real estate journey, whatever it is, always be curious, which goes hand in hand with learning. Just continue to learn, continue to explore ideas. If you have something that you type into Google and nothing comes up, be the person to make that search result come up and create whatever that idea or that thing is. There's always a way. I mean, in 2023, you see so much stuff that you're like, I didn't even know that that could happen. So always be curious. And then with that goes the saying of go for it. Just make sure to do your research. And I don't say like, go for it and go right now, spend 100K on something, but go for it as far as like asking the question, pursue whatever that idea or that opportunity is, even if it means just going to look at a house or going to YouTube to start researching that idea. But don't limit yourself to where people are like, hey, you can only be XYZ type of person to afford that house, or you need to have XYZ type of money, this certain amount of money in order to pursue that. Just go for it, start doing your research. You can start out as small as you need to and then grow from there. Worst case, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and you just move along. But at least you can say you went for it, you asked those questions, and then you have additional tools in your back pocket to use, and you learn something new. So
I love it. And I'm going to give one extra, Hillary, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because something you've mentioned a couple times since we've been here. You've mentioned a couple times that you went on to YouTube to learn. You've gone on to Military to Millionaire, of course, to learn. But what I want people to take away from it is that the resource is there. Hillary is already showing you and proven to you that the resource is there. If you want to learn real estate, go to YouTube. You want to learn to tie your shoes in a new way, go to YouTube. You want to learn to cook something interesting and different, you go to YouTube, go to TikTok, go to IG. The information is out there. You just have to go and find it. It is not as hard as we make it. Don't be afraid. There's somebody who's done it before you. There's a Hillary who's out there in front of you right now, blazing a path. Hop on the same trail. Follow her to success. With that said, I'm going to shut up now. Hillary, how can people reach out to you and get a hold of you if they want to talk to you?
Awesome. Right now, you can check out my Instagram. It's going to be April.and.May. I was like, so that's my gift shop embroidery Instagram. I haven't created real estate, Instagram or anything like that. So that's kind of the best way to reach me on the business side. And then it'll link you from there to my website if you want to order anything, or if you need anything custom for your business as well. Anything basic from like polos, or you need, some cute additional embroidered fashion items in your wardrobe. So do a little bit of everything, but that's the best way to reach me. Or
Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, remember at April.and.May. The holiday seasons are coming up. We're about to be in October here. October's around the corner. It's not that close, but it's around the corner, doggone it. I want you to make sure you got all your stuff laid out for Christmas, for the what is it? That's all the holiday? Thanksgiving. That's what it is. Christmas, Thanksgiving, the Halloweens, whatever it is you want to get at going now. Hop on April and May right now. Figure out how to get there. So go to the website www.aprilandmaygifts.com and get started on your embroidery process. Yep, there you go. MAE. That's right. MAE. So remember, you're better than you are, but you're not half as good as you're going to be. Hillary, thank you so much for coming on. This has been dope. I look forward to talking to you again in the group, if not by phone, because now I got your phone number so I can talk to you and your husband whenever I want. You take it easy, everybody.
It's generating leads. There you go.
Right? There you go. There you go. We love it. We will talk to you all soon. Until then, we'll see you later.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.